Hello, good morning, all of you. In this video presentation, we will discuss directing, its concepts, its features, and its importance. What is directing? Directing actually comes after three functions of management. First of all, management discuss planning. Then we discuss organizing. Then we discuss staffing. If you see carefully, in planning, we formulate the plan for future. According to those plans, we create the departments, we group the people, that is called organizing. And after that, after creating the departments, after creating the positions, we put the person on those positions by staffing. But you see, if only these three are present, and fourth one, that is directing, if suppose it is not present, then these cannot work. What is directing? As you see here, directing gives the direction. Here, this person is, everybody is pulling to others towards a particular goal. They want to reach somewhere. So, this is called directing. Now, we will see some definitions of directing that will further throw light on this topic. According to one situation, according to one of the very important definition given by Coons O'Donnell. Coons and O'Donnell. Coons O'Donnell is a very important scholar of management studies. He says directing is the interpersonal aspect of managing by which subordinates are led to understand and contribute effectively to the attainment of enterprise objectives. You mind these words given by Coons O'Donnell. You can note down this. Directing is the interpersonal aspect of managing by which subordinates are led to understand and contribute effectively to the attainment of enterprise objectives. If we think over this definition given by Coons O'Donnell, we come to know that first of all, directing is the interpersonal aspect of personality. It is relating to somewhere subordinates. And the purpose of directing is contribute effectively to the attainment of enterprise objectives. Sometimes we contribute, but we contribute only. Sometimes we contribute effectively. There is a difference between contribution and effective contribution. Effective contribution is charged by inner source of a subordinate. Every time that subordinate is not pushed, subordinate is only guided. Subordinate is only told about where he has to reach. But he puts his step on that way by his personal internal force. So, this is the difference between a motivated worker and worker only. If you want to reach your objectives effectively, then you need subordinates who can contribute effectively. For that, you need to understand the interpersonal aspects, and that interpersonal aspect can be understood by directing. So, after understanding the words of Coons O'Donnell, the of concept of directing emerged before us. According to that, we can say directing is an important link with other management functions. First of all, directing has a link with planning, with organizing, with staffing, and controlling also. Right? Controlling will come later on, but here you see directing has direct relation with planning, organizing, staffing. If directing is not there, then planning, organizing, staffing cannot work. They cannot work effectively. Directing is an important link with all these. All other functions of management, such as planning, organizing, staffing, have no importance without directing. If directing is not there, it will be like as without engine, the train try to move ahead. Directing is the function of guiding, directing is the function of guiding, first of all. Guiding, inspiring, overseeing, overseeing, and instructing. How these four things prepare a platform for directing, guiding, inspiring, overseeing, and instructing. Now you see why these things are required. These things are required for accomplishment of organizational goals. Accomplishment of goals. If merely you are guiding somebody without having any goal, or you inspiring, or you are overseeing, or you are instructing somebody without having any goal, then this is not called directing. There should be a certain objective. I have to reach here. I am here. So, how will I move from this place to this place, or this situation to this situation, this level of work performance to this level of work performance? It can be interpreted in so many ways. So, if you have any goal and then you guide, inspire, overseeing, or instruct your subordinates, then this becomes directing. Now, after developing this concept of directing, we can focus now upon features of directing. Features of directing. After understanding the features, we will be able to understand in better way what is directing. So first feature is pervasive. What is the meaning of the word pervasive? Pervasive simply says everywhere. Everywhere. What do you mean by everywhere in management? It can be interpreted in two ways. Everywhere means all types of organization. It also means all types of levels of management. Now you see what we mean to say. If we say all types of organization, it means directing is required in every type of organization. It can be educational institution, it can be a hospital institution, it can be a religious institution, or it can be a commercial institution, it can be factory organization, or it can be an office organization, anything. Everywhere directing is required. If we take its meaning all types of levels of management, then you know there are three levels of management: top, middle, you have already understood this, and lower. Directing is required at all levels. At top level, the manager who is sitting at top level will direct middle and lower. The manager who is sitting in middle will direct lower. Similarly, the lower level management guide, instruct, oversee the activities of the subordinates who are under them. So it is required at all levels of management. By understanding both the concepts, we come to know that directing is pervasive. Next is continuous activity. Continuous activity. Continuous activity. Directing is continuous. It continues through the life of organization. A manager continuously guide and supervise the subordinates. If I take a school organization, then what happens? A teacher continuously guides and supervise the activities of students. It never happens that teacher says, I will supervise your activities only in starting of the session. After that it will be settled. No. It is overseen by teacher every day. Every day teacher has to motivate the children. It never happens that teacher has motivated the children only in the first chapter. No, he has to teach the entire book. He has to teach during the entire session. So this is a continuous process, and directing never comes to an end. Number 3 is human factor. Directing function is related to subordinates, right? And therefore it involves human factor. Since human factor is complex, it is complex, and behavior of subordinates can be unpredictable. Directing becomes an important function. Here we have raised two issues. The human behavior is complex and unpredictable. It means unpredictable means which cannot be forecast in future, in advance. I don't know what will be my behavior after 5 minutes. I don't know if all of a sudden the situation changes, what will be the way of my reaction. Because human psychology is very complex. We ourselves don't know what we want, what type of personality we have. So, when human psychology is so complex and unpredictable, so directing becomes a very, very important element of management which will coordinate the different complex and unpredictable personalities in an organization. So, number 4 is creativity. Creativity directing helps in converting plans to performance. First of all, plan comes before us. We have to convert them into performance. If plans are merely plans, then it will serve no purpose. If these plans are converted into performance, then there is a purpose. Then question comes, how plans will be converted into performance? So the magic of directing comes. Directing converts these plans to performance by motivating employees to work in a creative manner, or any other tool can be used. But directing takes help of all. But directing at all cost convert the plans into performance. Number 5. Next is management function. Management function. Now you see, the function of directing is carried out by all the managers and executives at all levels, as we have already seen. Again, we see all the managers means top, middle, and lower, all, right? It is a function that runs from top to bottom. Here directing is required, here directing is required, here directing is required. Throughout the working of the organization, a subordinate, the subordinate receives instructions from his superior for doing his job. So management recognizes directing as a very, very important function. And after planning, organizing, staffing, directing comes as an independent function of management. When we have discussed the various features of directing, A question emerges in our mind: how directing becomes important for subordinate, for manager, and for the organization as a whole. Directing is a very important management function for every organization. It is an important link with other management functions. We have already discussed this. It is also called an actuating function of management because it is a through direction that the organization of an enterprise actually starts. Yes, merely making plan is not starting. Actually starting means when you have started converting your plans into performance, as we discussed in features of directing. Being the central point of all management functions, it provides many benefits to the organization which are discussed now. Actually, directing works as a hub of all other management functions: planning, organizing, staffing, controlling. Planning, organizing, staffing, controlling, all these functions actually work only with the help of directing. Directing is like a thread which can keep all these other functions knit together, right? So it becomes very important for us. Now, let us understand its importance in a sequential manner. First of all, directing initiates action. Initiates initiates action. Directing is the function which is the starting point of the work performance of subordinate. Here subordinate is, he knows what to do. He has been instructed what to do. But the subordinate internally does not seem to be happy with his work environment, and he does not seem to be prepared to take that instruction into action. So directing comes in the way now. Directing will motivate or will analyze its psychological situations, how this subordinate can be put into real work performance. Staffing has filled the vacancy. Merely staffing is not enough. Staffing has given so many subordinates for different positions. After that, if these subordinates have to work, then they need direction. Only then they become like this. Now, earlier they were standing alone. Now they are in a team. How they have been converted into this team. This is the miracle of directing. Next is integrate efforts. Through direction, supervisors are able to guide, inspire, instruct, the subordinates. Guidance is required, inspiration is required, instructions are required for subordinate. When all the things come to his mind, then he starts converting the plans into action. Right? So, what is directing? Directing is the name of integrating the efforts of guiding, inspiring, instructing, and other things. Next is coping up. Coping up with changes. Adapting to the environmental change is necessary for the growth of the organization, but employees have a tendency to resist any change in the organization. Yes. Resistance. Resistance to change. This is a very important thing to understand. Whenever a subordinate is given an instruction, normally he has a resistance because subordinate does not wish to change his position. If subordinate is instructed to come at his office at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, then in the first instance, subordinate will not like it. He will certainly resist. I am using the word subordinate. Subordinate means whosoever is working under anybody. A middle management level manager is a subordinate of top level manager. So I am talking about a subordinate, not about a particular situation. So this is a common factor with all. There is a resistance to change. Now question is how to cope up with the changes. Now I give you a very latest example. In this online classes, this is a new type of experience for all. And certainly it started with resistance. When an instruction comes that prepare a lecture for this, then definitely mind reacts. And a voice of resistance comes from our inner soul. But when direction comes from seniors, from superiors, then that resistance removes and the subordinate starts work to achieve organizational goal. Clear? Next is efficient utilization. Efficient utilization of resources. Efficient utilization of resources. It involves defining the duties and responsibilities of every subordinate clearly. Define duties and responsibilities. The duties of subordinate should be defined clearly. Subordinate must know what is his responsibilities, for what he is expected, non-performance of which activity can attract penalty for him. So this is very necessary. If it is clear, if the role of subordinate is clear to him, if it is clear, then there will be no wastage or less wastage of resources. There will be no duplication of work, or less duplication of work. We can sometime make the duplication zero, or if the chances of duplication is very much, then by force of directing we can minimize at least duplication of work. Duplication of work means the same work is done in at two times, either by the same subordinate or by two different subordinates, without having knowledge that other has also done it. So if we um, perform the same activity twice, thrice, which is not required, then naturally there will be wastage of resource. So by force of directing, we have to minimize and we have to make the wastage zero. Only then we can ensure efficient utilization of resources. Next point is stability. Effective directing helps in developing cooperation and commitment. Cooperation and commitment. If your directing is effective, then a sense of cooperation will be established and a spirit of commitment will develop in subordinates. Stability is very important since it is significant in the growth of the organization. Stability we can understand in this way that there should not be a tendency in subordinates in your group, in your organization to change frequently. If subordinates are joining and leaving, then your organization will become a platform of training only, and you will never be benefited by their stable force. So try to make your staff, your subordinate, stable, and that is possible only by the force of directing. Last point of this topic of importance of directing, we can see motivation. Motivation is a separate element of directing also. We will discuss in detail there. But here, motivation to employees. A manager identifies the ability of its subordinates and helps them give their best performance while working in the organization. Sometimes a subordinate is very talented, but he is not able to put his best efforts for the sake of organization. Why? Because he is not motivated, he is somewhere discouraged, he has some anxieties in his mind, he has some troubles, he has some non-clearance, he is some his mind is somewhere fixed, some hanging over are there. So there are so many things which are stopping a very talented subordinate to work. But by force of motivation, the superior pulls the subordinate who is discouraged from the depression and put him into action. Employees are motivated as they are given various financial and non-financial incentives to improve their performance. Financial and non-financial incentives also play a role to motivate the employee. This ultimately helps in the growth of the organization in the long run. So, by this entire discussion, we come to understanding that directing is a thread which is keeping the entire organization knit together, which is converting the plans into action, which is putting the subordinate into real performance. Clear? So, I hope this discussion will help you a lot to understand. And uh, now you revise it and be prepared for understanding other aspects of directing in the next lecture. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.